What makes this work meaningful is actually what I think of as memorable moments where you see a person or an individual and perhaps they don't really know or see a pathway or know what potential they might have in themselves. And then you see ways that people can interact through exposure to different career opportunities or to things they might have not studied otherwise if they didn't think it was possible. I've been lucky to be involved in like hundreds of people's lives, and I hope that I've made a difference, but I think like it helps me just see the world differently or be a better person, and that's what I'm really grateful for. I'm Stephanie Khurana. I'm CEO of Axim Collaborative, and we're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And along with a wonderful team, what we do is we try to support digital innovations that help more students through their journey from high school through post-secondary education into work. And just recognizing that a lot of students don't succeed on that journey, and that by innovating at places where most students often stop out, that we can help more students through those pathways. We focus on kind of the digital innovations, but we do it with partners. And so those partners are with community colleges, with state schools, with digital innovators that are technologists, also policymakers. So recognizing that you need a lot of people within an ecosystem to be able to help create more clear and seamless pathways from high school to whatever kind of education. There's no judgment about that. People think about four-year colleges as the only path, and there's lots of different pathways in life.
Did you always kind of want to do this sort of work? What were you super passionate about? And kind of how did you find that to what you do now, which is really amazing?
Thinking back when I was in high school and thinking about what kind of things I was passionate about, I really didn't know. I now realize that this idea of a career path to me always seemed like so linear and so like needed to be upward and to the right, and it was like a very set path, and that never really resonated with me. I think what I ended up doing is more of a mosaic, and a mosaic is something that you have this blank canvas, you can like paint different colors, and some of it might be work and some of it might be life, and that kind of more resonated with me. So as soon as I thought about I didn't need to be on a particular path, I think that opened up a lot of different ways for me to think about things. So I kind of lucked into this interview with a technology company, and I didn't know anything about technology, so I did not study it in college, but I actually studied international relations. So yeah, and I studied economics, and so I kind of like business, and I kind of like thinking about how do I impact the broader world, but I didn't know how to put it together. So I kind of fell into this technology company, and just because I thought, well, it's innovation and they're pushing the edge of what's possible. And so did that for a few years, and it turned out to be like really successful. But for me, it didn't like fully resonate because I was like missing that impact piece. And so I realized in order to get more impact, I thought maybe going back to school would help me do that. So with that business experience, I actually took a right turn and went to policy school. So I said, if I can marry my business experience with the public sector and learn more about that, that might open up more possibilities for impact. So I ended up also studying and getting an MBA as well, thinking like, how do I put those two together? But it was through that I realized I can kind of create my own way to put these together, because there was no set path to do that. So that's kind of led me to where I am today, and where the work I do, it marries with what's going on in the technology sector, but also you need policymakers and you need higher education institutions. And so it kind of married both of those.
How did you kind of feel when you were first pivoting from that step? Because I know it was probably pretty daunting and, pretty different, right? To kind of decide to go into another degree or higher ed. Yeah.
No, it was hard because first of all, there was not a social impact sector at the time. And so I had to figure out this policy thing wasn't quite me either. I didn't see myself working for the government per se, but it was the best combination that I could put together. And I think a lot of people ask me questions. It's like, wait, you're already doing this and it seems to be going well. Why would you take such a different path? And for me, it was just a continuation on something that I loved, which was helping people thrive. I think that being comfortable taking different turns, I think is really important to embrace. So even after I left my graduate studies and then I did a couple more entrepreneurial things, I then actually had some family challenges that cropped up. And so it made me realize I had to step back and repivot again and think about, well, what was another approach to pursue the things I love, but it also wasn't the exact path that I had in mind to begin with.
What was kind of the biggest difficulty?
When it comes to work-based challenges, I'm always like, well, what's the problem and how do I solve it and how can we reorient? And I think the thing that caused me to change the most was actually stepping back after, like, the first part of my career was entrepreneurial all-in career, and at the same time try to be the kind of like wife and mom. Like, that was a challenge, but felt like I had it down. But a few health challenges came into play that caused me to also step back. And at first I felt like a failure, like, why can't I do all of these things? And then I realized that actually opened all these new doors for me once I reframed my thinking. And I ended up then being in the higher ed sector for almost a decade. And then that actually led me into venture philanthropy, and where then I got to work with a bunch of social entrepreneurs who were solving big problems around the globe. And so my first was like resistance and like, oh, I just thought I couldn't figure this out. And instead I got like more of everything, because our family is, very close, and I got to have these new experiences yet in other sectors that I wasn't really planning on. And then that culmination actually led to where I am now.
What is something you wish you knew when you were my age?
I wish I appreciated there were a lot of people around me that I could reach out to for help along the way. And a lot of times you go through really challenging times and you're like, I've got this, I'm strong. And the reality is it's hard to go through some tough things and go through them what feels like alone, or maybe with a few people because you don't want to burden them. But that actually a lot of people are there for you if you just reach out.
Right.
And I think there's this idea of being perfect or having it together or not wanting to bother or burden someone. And in fact, that actually creates stronger relations when you do reach out, and then people reach out to you for help, and then that creates that cycle. And I think I could have done more of that when I was your age. I'm very appreciative for all the support I've gotten, but I realized I might have not recognized that early on.